They should have sent the poet. The poet. They should have sent the poet. The poet.
Sending poets.
This is Sending Poets, a podcast named after the movie Contact, when Jodie Foster says they should have sent a poet after traveling through the wormhole. My name is John, with me is Bob, and today is round 2 on Pumpkinheads, the screenplay idea that Bob came up with many years ago. And if you're like me, if you listened to last week's episode, you were sitting here doing the techno Viking dance. Thanks again for bringing that up. That was great last week. And then we haven't actually talked about it, but I know we texted about it. But a couple days later, the YouTube algorithm god was like, here's an AI like mashup with Keanu Reeves's face, like kind of steampunk kind of style on that video, and I shared that with you and Tucker. And I think, Bob, you said, hey, can you put the intro music on that? I said, yes, I can. And I think it came out pretty kick-ass.
Oh, my
I watched
goodness.
it like a handful of times. I was like, this is pretty cool.
Perfectly. It syncs. It's the vibe that I had when I heard it at the beginning of last week's intro. It's exactly it. I loved it. Thank you, Google gods, or whatever algorithmic force bestowed that upon us.
Yeah. The app,
and then great work pulling the audio and making it happen. I mean, actually just pulling a dream out of the ether and making it into something real. I love that.
Yeah, thanks. The app crashed on me, but I got back in so I don't think I really missed too much. But yeah, good stuff. So maybe I'll put a link to that. Well, I put it on TikTok, and sometimes links to TikToks are finicky. But maybe I'll put that in the episode for anybody who listens.
Yeah, we're going to have to keep that in the show notes somehow. It's a permanent link somewhere. Maybe Reddit or something. I don't know.
Yeah, right. Cool. All right. So let's dive right in. So, last time, I guess just a quick recap. Last time we talked about the overall idea, and we went through the cast. And so today we're going to start with themes. And these are just bullet points that you had put together. So I'll just go through each one, and I suppose, we'll just
jump off,
spin off on things. Yeah. So, outline of themes: drama mixed with horror and sci-fi. Makes sense. Actually, sorry. Speaking of horror, I did see the most terrifying movie I've ever seen on Friday night. It just occurred to me I should share this. Jay was like, "Have you heard of a movie called Talk to Me?" And I hadn't, but it was very interesting, like coincidence or whatever, because Talk to Me is one of the applications I support at Progressive. It's called Talk to Me, so I was immediately intrigued. Like, oh, I've got a connection with the words Talk to Me, and we watched it. I had no idea what to expect. It was terrifying. So
brand new, like within the last year, kind of movie.
Yeah, it came out 2023. It's like takes place in
and one more time, England. Talk to Me. Is that right?
Yeah, it's called Talk to Me. It's really well done.
Find this. I was trying to find this not too long ago, and I couldn't find it. I couldn't remember what it was called, but I think this is it.
No kidding.
No kidding. There was a headline: "Scariest
London,
movie." Scariest movie you'll ever see, or something like that, or scariest movie of the year. And I think that's what it was. Talk to Me. Very cool.
it's really well done. It's like, psychological horror, not just like, um, horror for horror's sake. I suppose, I don't know. I'm not really a horror aficionado. So,
Mashup, yeah.
so, that's my thoughts on those themes: drama, horror, sci-fi. For me, sci-fi, obviously love some sci-fi. The drama thing for me, I think it's, maybe it depends on, the description of what does drama mean. There's definitely some aspects of drama that I'm not interested
There's
in,
tough
I
choices, I
suppose.
think.
Yeah, but the just human connection stories about like, that's in general, like, that's what I think of when I see the word drama. And so drama, horror, sci-fi all together, yeah. And based on what we talked about before, I think all that like works in really well. So, um, this will be interesting. It's like the third time the app has crashed on me, so we're still gonna power through. Ironically, as I opened it this time, it's all like, "How are you enjoying the app? Want to rate it?" No, I don't. I don't want to rate it right now. Anyway,
It happened
okay,
to me
so
a couple of weeks ago, remember? I think it
yeah,
happened to me. I hit a succession of these. Yep. Just got to
yeah,
write it out.
yep. So second bullet point here. So point of view, thematic structure, and iterations. Example, as in Groundhog Day, the viewer sees the same event many times. Each episode reveals the event through a different character's point of view. We talked about that in the last episode too. I love the idea. It seems ripe for, it's new, it's unique, and it seems like the time is good too for something like that. So,
Clear that
multi,
the just to be super clear, the extra little twist on top of the Groundhog Day is that the story progresses with each character. So
mhm.
like you know what to expect, I'm sure, after about midway, that each time you get into it, the story will catch up to the where it left off last time and progress further, just a little bit further.
Yeah, right. Yep, yep. Uh, Multifaceted storytelling, only the surviving characters carry the story forward. Yeah, it kind of links to what you were just talking about too, because basically, I don't want to say everyone dies, but just about everyone dies. So, that's kind of part of it. Yeah, tough choices, superficiality has been stripped away. Yeah, so it's like real intense stuff. I like how you described it there. Superficiality has been stripped away. We're not talking about
It's
like what they're going to
it's
have for dinner. It's like, how are they going to stay alive or not? You know?
right. This is what I think is it's a can like remember the classic "What is this like?" Very much, I think, Walking Dead like, where
Mm,
everything is based off of a not normal situation. So it just kind of
yeah,
takes you out of the normalcy of what are we having for dinner, like you're saying. So that's
yeah,
exactly it. Everything is now raw, and uh, you got to kind of either suspend your disbelief and be there, or just you're not there. It's like all in or all out. So I think it's kind of cool that way.
yeah. Us versus them. Everyone is forced to pick a team, which reveals humanity's hidden unity against a common threat. I feel like I feel like that's like a universal theme. Just about everyone at some point in their life can get behind. Maybe I should start tallying how many times it's crashed.
I
Anyway,
think
but
that's four now.
I know, right? I was gonna say, just this common theme. I think most humans can at some point in their life relate to one way or another. Uh, the idea of like us versus them, fear, the other, so in general, in storytelling, I think anytime that can be worked in, there's potential for real deep, meaningful, um, storytelling, I suppose. So yeah,
Exactly the intent and the flavor overall or color is evolution, meaning We
Mm-hmm.
fight these things that we feel or we see in other people that they feel, these compulsions and choices they make, and situation and narrating it in your point of view, etc. These things are adaptions, literal adaptions for fitness.
Yeah.
Not anymore, because like everybody can survive now. It's just, I'm not saying that flippantly. I'm just saying as an evolutionary tale, it's really hard to get there when you have present levels of comfort and stability relative to our ancestors, is what I'm getting at. So these things that we are compelled to fight with, the tug of war now is like novelty or hyper novelty and sedentariness or something like that. You know what I mean? It's like idiocracy kind of things.
Yeah.
Like that's what we have to be fearful of, is the algorithm learning our special spot to scratch at, like a cat, and it just feels too good. We can't resist, and we'll just be domesticated, just like that,
Mm.
or whatever, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Next bullet point here, also good stuff here. Perspective and reality, seeing the same event viewed subjectively through each character's eyes. Just how many times we talked about that in general. And so I like the idea that that gets worked into this story, the subjective thing. It seems like there's a lot of opportunity to do, metaphors with subconscious, conscious things. You know, one character kind of does something, and that's kind of um, that can be looked at as maybe the subconscious, and then this other character is kind of just, in a particular situation, like in the passenger seat, observing. Maybe one of the maybe the scene with the grandma, because doesn't the the oldest son kind of sacrifices the grandma, right?
Whether that's, I mean, yes, that's whether she self-sacrifices, as we
Yeah, we
discussed
were going
last
back and
time.
forth. Yeah.
It was a conversation. I think it's up for debate. It's a really interesting
Hmm.
point of moralizing that frame, and whether you go one way or the other, there's a lesson to be learned. So I don't know which way, but yeah,
Hmm.
imagine. So going back, I want to tie these two together. Exactly, the point is that the previous one was us and them. Underlying point is there's a evolutionary advantage to us and them, if we're honest. Situation. There's only going to be so many in the lifeboat, and everybody else is not in the lifeboat. Where are you? It's us or them. Okay, these are things that get you through, and afterwards you tell the story about what happened, or you don't.
Yeah.
And my point is this: that is baked into our cake, so to speak. But we're not like that anymore. We're not
Yeah.
fighting. We're not fighting for lineage anymore. We're not fighting for our future progeny. We're not really fighting. We have this collective superorganism thing going on, like a termite mound or something, but reaches into space, right? I mean,
Yeah.
we're beyond this thing because we've mixed around. We're not just like in geographical isolated areas, and it's like we got to build a wall. It's not like that anymore, right?
Yeah.
But we have so much hardware based off of that, and so much software culturally based off of that truism, that for all of our history up until just a little bit ago, I heard this term the other day. I can't remember the podcast, but it was called uh, male facilitated migration, genetic, and it meant the men grabbed the women and they took them. Like we talk
Interesting.
about populations, and so you have X and Y chromosomes, so you can tell where like the populations mix, but how far back it was, you could tell. Was it a mixture of men into the women group or women into the men group? Because you could determine which chromosomes pass through. The Y is unadulterated along the male lineage, and women are the only ones that have the X. And so there's mitochondrial DNA that is completely untouched by any male composition into the mix. So it's a fascinating way to track. And the point is this: there's three ways it goes. One is the men come in and stay with the women. The other one is the women go and stay with the men. And the third is the men come in, grab the women, and take them back. The women never go in, grab the men, and take them back. That hasn't happened yet. But you know what I'm saying? Like, you could determine the way these things have happened over time. And my point is, these are evolutionary strategies that are baked into us, just like bipedalism is.
Yeah.
And it's not going to dictate what happens next. But the point is, the very next chapter point, or whatever this topic point is to see it the other way, see it the other person's way, see it subjectively their way,
Yeah.
steal their way. You have to understand it, not just know it. Knowing is corollary. Understanding is a causal thing, and you can't get to that causal without seeing it their way. Why did they do it that way? They had a
Right.
reason, not your prejudiced reason, not your bigoted reason.
Right.
They had a human reason that we can all relate to. Back to the point, is all related to all of us.
Right.
Grandma down to survive or not. Okay. But what I'm saying is, this is a story about what is baked into our cake. And then what do we do with what we got? Because you can't make it another way, no matter how much you wish, want, beg, borrow, steal. It is the way it is, at least for us. In the future, who knows? But right now, we got to play this game with what we got. And I think we're just now uncovering the cards we're playing with. And with the fact that we're even sitting at the table playing a game. Like, we're just now waking up with this mixture of intelligence, this super organization of communication. That's what is the next level, right? That's the diversity of ideas. That is the information gap between reality and information, meaning we can multiply an idea an infinite number of times at no cost. Once you hit that layer, dude, it's a whole nother game. A whole nother game. And that's what we're embracing right now.
Yeah. It's so interesting to hear you, describe it all that way, and like how it's like what you're saying flows in and out of the story and out and in and out of like real life, like really like I think seamlessly. And I think that's one of the cool things about storytelling in general is the parallels and the metaphors about real life, real experience. It reminded me too of when last week Tucker said, what if there is like hereditary memory, like gene experience, like gene memory, like embedded in our genes or something, like when you told the story about the hailstorm, and what if, some distant ancestor had some experience that, kicked in, and that's what you're kind of describing, that the, I, like I said, maybe this was in the context specifically of the story, or maybe it was like real life, but I certainly think that a lot about the real world today, like where the human species is in its evolution today, about we don't have to kind of, be like that anymore. These kinds of old ways, that maybe there's this new way about really trying to see from the other person's experience. And of course, the word empathy is like the label I like for that, that's like huge. And I really do think that's like what's happening in our stage of evolution right now. I think I've told Kim many times, like, I'm pretty sure future generations will look back at this time as like a sort of pivotal moment when, this shift started really happening, you know, like in the way we can look back at previous generations and like look at like civil rights movement, women's suffragette, suffrage,
Yes,
which
I think it was suffrage. Yeah, that's right.
yeah, that was it. Well, it's Plato's cave, right? It's the allegory. It's like a few,
Very good. I like that.
right? A few people kind of like, hey, guess what? The way we've been doing it maybe isn't the best. I checked this out or whatever. I really think there's something amazing here, and I want to bring it back to the rest of the group. And then that, then the story is told, like, how did that go? You know what I mean? So,
Hey, though, it's still
exciting
Plato's
times.
cave. It's just our version of Plato's cave this time,
Hmm.
right? It just keeps
Right.
on evolving. And so
Yeah.
that brings it back to the point of what is the consciousness's role in the flow chart of being a human. And it's to narrate, right? It's to make these stories about what just happened. hopefully we're getting to the point now where not only will we have all this information to share with one another, but we can, use it and because that's the whole point is once you realize we have to not make a list of something to give to somebody else, but encode that list in a narration, a story, metaphor, that's how they absorb it. And it's the principle of the metaphor, once absorbed, will be reimagined through their subconscious, which then their consciousness will observe and take and say, I did this. So what I'm getting at is you cannot program at the mass level, at the conscious level. It has to be done at the subconscious level. It's the only way. And so these stories, these shared culture, advertisement, whatever you want to call the things that bombard us constantly with inputs, right?
Yeah.
Like, do this, don't do that. Here's a story. It's the novelty and hyper novelty of life today. It's like, how many pieces of information do you scroll through on your phone on a daily basis?
Right.
I mean, it's preposterous how much information will be absorbed by an average human that starts now, like my kids and your kid, right? So it's going to be next level, and then that level is going to be next level, and then that level is going to be next level. It's going to be like cracking a whip. Every time it flexes on the whip, it gets faster. Every time it changes direction until you get to the tip, and now it's moving supersonic.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you're spot on there. I think, and that's, I think, I don't have any, I guess, empirical evidence, or it's curious to me, and I think it's probably worth like researching. What comes to mind is like the fear about screen time, and I know some parents who are like, no, I don't allow my kids to use XYZ app, or I only let them look at screens this amount of time. And then I know parents that, well, like us, like my wife and I are like, no, whatever, do whatever you want, pretty much, because our kid's a pretty mellow kid, but he makes it pretty easy. Like, he's not looking to like sneak out and get in stuff that we're afraid of. So he kind of makes it easy for us to just give him more autonomy and like the screen time that he's. Anyway, so my point is, I do think that most kids are going to be growing up with more and more screen time and more exposure to this. And doesn't it kind of make sense that that could be just factoring into their evolution, that their brains are just going to be more used to, again, the like hyper novelty, new stuff, not like evolving out of this kind of sense of, well, we can't do that because we've always done it this way. This is how it's always been, and we can't change that. We have to stick to this old way. I think that's like a common theme with me when I think about evolution. So.
I hear you. This is not an argument underpinned by continuity of history or anything like that. What I'm saying is there's a vulnerability in that we're 100% Pavlovianly adaptable. Doesn't matter who you are. Doesn't matter if you know it's happening. If you look at something enough times, you even know it's happening. You could say, look, we're going to tell you what's going to happen. And you could say, oh, no, you'll never get me. It doesn't matter. You are conditionable just like every other higher order mammal on this planet is conditionable. And the main thing you condition yourself with is visual stimulus.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't matter. Now, it doesn't mean it's bad. It's like if I say, what is a hammer? Is a hammer bad or is it good? Well, if you hit me in the face, I wish you would rather not have had a hammer, right? I would rather you tried to your little simple hand and try to hit me in the face. But now, if I have to build a shelter tonight where my family is going to freeze to death, that hammer will save me, obviously. So it's contextually based. And all I'm saying is until we become aware of how powerful a tool this is, tool AI is to algorithmically choose, no joking now, what through a corollary fashion. I mean, it doesn't even understand what we're influenced by. It just knows if this, then that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, in this sense, and we can be pushed in certain, and this is at mass quantities. I'm not talking every single person is susceptible, nor is everybody as susceptible as the other person. I'm just saying in general, once you scale this thing up and start embedding it at the child level, where they don't know any difference, it's just literally how it all is, and there's no sense of like, this is water. It's like, I'm just a fish. I don't know there's water there. It's always been here. And I'm
Yeah.
saying that that's not normal for humans to have evolved into that context, John. And I'm just saying, until we are aware such that we're using it to our advantage, I feel like we're unaware and we could be exploited by the minority who are aware of this phenomenon.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah. Does that tie into this next bullet point? Jump scares. Clever strategies for attack infection allow for traditionally mindless genre zombies to have added level of intelligence, thus surprise. And the reason I said that is like, yeah, like that's a that's a very useful thing in general, like jump scares to trigger that sort of automatic, like, physical response. Like I get jump scared. We just saw we've seen Five Nights at Freddy's movie a few times because that's another one of my kids' fixations. But there's a good couple jump scares in there, and you know it's maybe it's a stretch for me to have jumped there when you were talking about like being exploited, but maybe not. Maybe it's kind of that, in this case, not for anything bad. It's just it is kind of a fun, like, especially for me. That's my experience. I guess that's what I should say. In general, like jump scares for me are pretty you know it's it's uh it's usually something I end up laughing about you know
Though, to you at a lower level, meaning you're reacting before you're thinking about your reaction, and
Hmm.
and that's a level, that's the layer that you embed at. So when you're trying to get this signal across, like we're all doing a morality play, and then we're doing it in a Plato's cave. This is right. This is drama. So morality play in a Plato's cave. Here we are. How do we make this new? I think it's integrating this jump scare component, and it doesn't have to be jump scare. It could be like jump awe or something. Like awe is probably the
Mm.
best way. Like, what is a sensation that you can't use words to describe? Like when you look at the sunset or a rainbow or something like that,
Yeah.
where it grabs you viscerally. That thing. That, because here's
Yeah.
my point, John. To tell somebody a story, let's go. Let's go to telling ghost stories around the campfire. Well, to lock in a feeling with the words. It's not just you read it on a piece of paper while sitting at a desk somewhere, safe and sound. There's a layer on top of that of the experience of being around the fire and the smell of the smoke and the crackling and the mosquitoes and the
The shadows.
shadows, right? The sounds out there. You see an
Yeah.
eye when you see a pair of eyes shine back
Yeah.
at you,
Right.
okay, and it slinks off, and you don't know what that thing was. My point is, you begin to feel a certain kind of way, and then the Pavlovian response kicks in. It's all a context game. So going back to contextualized learning, we talked about this about the scuba diver who learns a task deep underwater, and they can perform that task better when they're actually in the environment in which they learned than if they were sitting at a desk trying to replicate that same behavior. But if they reimagine they're back underwater and really submit themselves to that feeling, they can once again replicate their behavior and do it at a faster rate. So it's
Oh,
it's
yeah.
part of us where we're laying, meaning when I say we, I mean the conscious we. Our identity is laying on the top, Maggie style, and Marge is driving. And until we get to that fundamental understanding that we program at Marge, identify
Yeah.
and narrate at Maggie, such that we can make a difference. We can actually change someone else until they can understand what's happening. And then they wake up and they're like, oh, I see it now. But I think it has to come this other way first.
Mm. Yeah. That's very intriguing.
Power of stories, man. This is why it's just an accidental thing that stories are what culture is built off of, and this is what we define as our heritage or our history. All these, true or not true, it doesn't matter. Just the things we've learned that we use contextually to metaphor things, right? We reflect a metaphor in something else. We have to have a basket of ideas of other things to relate to one another. And to share those things is very powerful. To not have that shared, now you're an enemy.
Mm.
This is how this is how it goes back to like this. I personally believe, and this is not on the show. We could explore this maybe another another topic. But I personally believe culture is a living thing by definition. If we look at the definition of what a living thing is, I believe culture meets that definition. But it's at
Wow.
a parasitical level, meaning it rides on the
Oh,
biology of humans, right?
yeah. Wow. That's really like, that's very intriguing. Yeah, that does seem like, let's put a pin in that for a future episode for sure. Because yeah, there's a lot there that we could to dig into. I like that. Culture is a parasite.
And until we take that seriously, but actually, you know what? I take it back. It's not totally a parasite. I'm too egotistical. Here's why. It's such an adaptive fitness to have strong culture that it is beneficial to the host. I'm just being prejudicial because I think it rides on us. But
Mm,
really, if I'm being honest, it's almost like the trees argument. Like, are we really just a sperm dispersal mechanism for the trees to impregnate the earth? I think we are,
mm, yeah.
right? If you look at a big
Yeah,
enough
yeah.
time scale. So
Right.
back to that, I think the same thing holds with the concept of culture in that, yeah, I could live without it, but what would I be? I'd be an animal.
Yeah. Wow.
Language, if I had no way to cook, I had no clothing, I had no concept of history or future predictability, like I'm going to die or I was born. If I had nothing that anybody ever made for me, I would be one broken ankle away, one bad infection away, one appendicitis away, one stick jabbed me in the eye, and now my eye got infected away from just being dead at whatever age I was unlucky enough to have this mishap. We are so vulnerable without culture, or in the bigger sense, community or society. We're not built for it at all. It's zero, none. There's a quantity of zero. Because even if you succeed as an individual, no one will ever know about it. You've pinched yourself off from the ever loving wave of humanity that continues as a force. It's like alive thing that we piggyback off of. So maybe it's reverse. Maybe it is not the parasite. Maybe we
Wow. I love that, man. You just kind of like,
are.
that's part of the flow state, right? Like when you're when you kind of in the moment you kind of find a contradiction in your thinking that's worth pursuing and talk through it and like have these I mean, I don't want to speak for you, but did you kind of feel
It's a
like
feeling. It literally it's
I
just
was
a
gonna
feeling
say,
of like, because
yeah,
here's my point to your point. My point is that without you listening and responding exactly the way you did, exactly when you did and how you did to make me feel a certain way, I wouldn't have kept going, meaning I responded as a reaction to you. I felt a certain thing.
mm,
Now that feeling is my subconscious giving me information. There, a la the projectionist in Fight
yeah,
Club, that he's slipping some little thing in there, and it only takes one split second of an image, and that thing is so compressed. Now, it might not make any sense to anybody else in the entire world, but it made sense to me in some way that I'm not consciously aware of. But once
yeah,
that handoff is made, I felt it, and your flow. You just go with it. And then the narration is like your consciousness.
yeah,
But you're describing what was given to you. So it's not really yours. But it
yeah,
seems like it is, and you can trick yourself. And that's where we're at today. Put a pin in that. As a
yeah.
humanity, once we realize where we're at in the game, we can use it to our advantage. As long as we take credit for it, we are fucked.
Yeah, right. That like ego comes in with that, right? Yeah, so wow.
100%. That's it.
All
It's
right.
just the ego. Yep.
Yeah. All right. Next bullet point here in the themes. Building of suspense. The true nature of the bad guys remains mysterious and unknown until enough episodes have built up to a reveal. So the true nature of the bad guys again is the um, just like spreading. Uh, I don't want to use the word
First,
contaminating.
it's unexplicable at first. So you're going to see and hear all the things that you would see and hear, but if you don't know what's really happening, like some alien spores came down and turned people into zombies or whatever, it's not going to be explicable to you. It's going to be weird. It's going to be like, that was weird. Like, what is going on? Like,
Mm,
I don't have no idea. Like, it's just going to be like deer in headlights kind of moment. So in the beginning, people are going to react a certain kind of way, which is disbelief, discombobulation, paranoia, anxiety,
Yeah.
just collapse of trust. Okay, people
Mm.
are going to start like, do I trust this guy? I don't know. Like, and it's all going to
Yeah.
get really weird really quick. And we're going to realize when you rug pull society with this culture and you take it away from you, how important it is to have this mutually agreed upon code of conduct, assumptions that are predictable in one another, things that make
Mm.
sense. Like we take all this for granted. Not that we shouldn't. It's very nice to have and we use it and it's a great tool. I'm just saying it's not guaranteed. It wasn't what
Mm.
we had to be where we are now. We had to evolve this. And it can be unevolved. And by the way, it's happened more times than I can even count. Probably hundreds of times there's been societies that have been created and disappeared. To think it doesn't happen or cannot happen is completely ostrich head in the sand.
Yeah.
Like it's more likely than not. Now we're technologically more advanced than any other society, but they were more technologically advanced than many other societies that came after them, meaning the Romans. They built these roads that for hundreds of years people were like, what are these roads? What is this thing here? Who could have made such a thing? Literally for hundreds of years throughout Europe. It's like, who made all these things that came up I don't know. These people are no longer here, right? It's just the
Yeah.
tech of the Colosseum and the tech of all these things that builds up. And ancient Greece, right? The Parthenon,
Mm-hmm.
all these things, Athens, all these things that were the pinnacles of technology in their day. And they far and away were. I mean, these were absolute majestic jewels of humanity.
Yeah.
Right? These, the hanging gardens and the big libraries and all these wonders of the world, and they just disappear and they crumble away. Nobody ever thinks it's possible, but I'm telling you, it's almost damn near inevitable.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, it reminds
Wooden
me of
shoes down the stairs with silk slippers. It happens time and
yeah.
time again.
Yeah. Reminds me of Great Wall of China and there's a character in Contact who's kind of obsessed with like ancient China, and I'm sure that'll come up. But yeah, pretty interesting.
Very, very interesting way to go with it. I'll not divert on that because we could have a whole podcast on that, but I think you're right. You're clued in to the phenomena of culture as it pertains to outcome of society and you know or walled off and you're just kind of sitting pretty or like there's just multiple ways to do. There's just different ways to choose. Are you the Mongolian barbarians or are you behind the wall? Like which one are you? I don't
Yeah.
know. But
Yeah.
there's ways to solve that equation that are different, and that is the competition that gets us to where we are today. Although we don't have to, thankfully. Well, I'm not going to talk. I mean, it's a bad time to say we're at peace geopolitically, so I'm not going to
Sure.
say we're at
Yeah.
peace. But it's not like we're worrying about someone cut. Well, I won't say that either. I don't know. Who knows anymore?
Yeah.
But
Right. Yeah, I know you. Yeah. But that leads into the next bullet point here on the themes, examples of human weakness and strength. Examples would be found in both expected and unexpected places. And that's exactly it. Like there's in the stories here's a particular time when this was human strength, and not like physical strength, but like you know maybe some moral thing. Dumbledore, I love how Dumbledore says uh we'll have to make a choice between what's right and what's easy. I love it because it's different from the I think when I started reading that I was thinking he's going to say right and wrong. Everybody says right and wrong. Well, no, it's not right and wrong. It's right and easy. Here's like another way to frame it. And I think about that a lot. So, yeah, this seems like really important to have, a really important theme to have in the whole story.
framing. I think that's what we want to look at when we're talking about these issues. The hard thing, and we just with the marshmallow test.
The marshmallow test. By the way, yeah, the technical difficulties this episode are abound, but So you cut out quite a bit there, but I heard you say something about the marshmallow test. So like, did we talk about that? What is that?
So you're talking about do the right thing or do the easy thing, right?
Yeah.
Something called the marshmallow test. You give this to children, and what it is a test of is delayed gratification. So you give
Mm,
the kid a marshmallow and you say, if you can wait 30 seconds or 60 seconds or whatever, depends on the age, I'll give you two. Addictive, unfortunately. Meaning this is not really a conscious thing most people are dealing with. The ability to comprehend and feel a certain way that your decision that you then judge, meaning your marge, is going to let you wait. It's not Maggie's choice.
mm,
Change down the line. You could become aware of this and adapt to it, but there is like a natural order of things, and people are inclined at a young age to have a certain suitability to understanding if I wait, I get two. And what I'm saying is
yeah.
it's really hard to do that thing. And most
Yeah.
people cannot do that thing. And so culture and society brings them along. If we were all left to our own devices, we would do what's easy.
The double meaning with the word devices, because like in the way the marshmallow test, like the delayed gratification, like immediately I thought about my phone. Like,
Cool, and I like that.
how many times am I like, yeah, let me look at my phone. For whatever reason, whatever, usually something mundane or whatever, but compared to like
It
how
though,
many times I can be like,
instant dopamine hit, yeah.
yeah,
But
yeah,
nobody's asking you, nobody's giving you this choice. So there is
sure,
that. It is kind of like an
yeah,
artifice of like we're giving you this ridiculous choice because maybe the kid's playing like the game of, hey, in my life, every time I ate one, someone put another on my plate. I don't care what you say. I'm just going to eat it. You're going to put another one on my plate, just like every other time in my life. I don't care what you say. Like, you know what I mean? There's
yeah,
totally many
right,
different ways to look at this from game theory and try
right,
to play it backwards from the choice was made. I don't think it's 100% like, hey, this person can't think of if I wait, I could get something. Maybe it's a rebel thing. I don't care what you say. I just don't even want to. I just want one and fuck you. I don't know. You know what I
yeah,
mean? There's like so many
right,
different ways you could go with this thing.
yeah, totally.
But that is what I'd like to get at, meaning the strategy level. So one more time on the theme, could you hit on that last bullet point, please, just to jog my memory here real quick?
The previous one or the one I just read, yeah, examples of human weakness and strength, and then
Human
those exam,
weakness.
yeah,
This is what I wanted to get to. I apologize to have to do that, but I had to retrigger this thought.
yeah, you're good.
Guys die first.
Sorry, there was like you cut out a little bit, but about who dying
Guys,
first? The
the
dad,
good the good guys
the
all
good guys.
die first.
Ah,
Yeah,
yeah,
the
yeah,
good guys
yeah.
die first. The ones who are going to
Mm,
volunteer to go out and embrace the enemy. The ones who die last are the ones who hide. And
yeah.
and so there's this pressure of tug of war between strategies of like, hey, if I go out and I embrace the challenge and I go after this thing, well, I may win. We may not die. We may conquer, and then there's a lot of opportunity with that. We just expanded our territory or whatever. Whereas I'm going to go hide, and I'm not going to be willing to sacrifice myself for the team, so to speak, and do my part. I'm going to let everybody else sacrifice before me, and then win or lose, I'll probably live anyway. And then when things are rebuilt, that's when I'm going to make my play. So
Mm,
there's different ways you can strategize these things. So when I say good
yeah.
guy, I just mean like the one who's transparently self-sacrificial in a hero capacity, meaning the trolley experiment. You're pulling the lever to save the many, but you're putting yourself
Yeah.
on the track as the few.
Yeah. Gotcha. Cool. And then the last theme or last bullet point on the themes here, differences in cause and effect between mindful, willful killing compared to mindless, senseless killing. So what were your thoughts about this one?
The zombie point of view, the scariness of the thing, and there's a tension here between the beginning early stages of infection where the creature meaning the infected person. I treat it like a rabid dog or something. It's not your dog anymore. It's a rabid dog. It's a different thing. It's not your, right. It's not your wife anymore. It's a
Yeah.
creature now. It's not a thing. So, I mean, it's not your thing. It's a different thing now. Anyway, in the beginning, the infection, your body is weakened, like in a paralytic almost state, dysfunctional. But the mind is sharp and it's used to deceive and plan ahead and entrap and ensnare and manipulate, using false flags, etc., trying to get its way. So that becomes terrifying in and of itself. And then towards the end, as the disease progresses, the mindfulness goes away and it becomes like a brutal attack. It becomes bestial and forceful, and it's going to, run after you, and it's going to jump on you, and they're all going to like vomit into your eyes and mouth, and they're going to try, right? It's a terrifying experience where these things are coming after you.
Yeah.
And so you don't want any part of that, obviously. So that's so terrifying. But what's worse? Is it the old man who fakes an injury so you come over, so he grabs you and does it? Or is it your mom who oh, honey, I wouldn't hurt you. Just come give mom a hug. Or, you know what I mean? So which one is it? What is the quote unquote bad one? Is it the one that happens brutally and without your, you didn't walk over to them, they ran over to you. Is that worse? Or is it the one that entices you as far as good and evil?
Yeah. And it's all in the telling, I suppose, right? Do you see it? Do you see like specific scenes being uh super clear that it's one or the other, or do you kind of see striving for like the ambiguity so that it's kind of left up to the viewer, most of the time, more so? You know what I mean?
That's right where to go with this thing. And I do have a direct answer. And it's whatever drives the audience member specifically, their jump scare moment.
Mm.
People would jump scare off of a violent act, like being chased down by a mob of these creatures and being pinned down and violated essentially, and just terrified. It'd be terrifying. You're losing your life in that moment.
Yeah.
Would it be knowing that your loved one deceived you and or exploited you, or even someone who's in a vulnerable position, not your loved one, but just someone you're trained or ingrained to go help and assist, and they use you for that reason, meaning the reason they get you is by playing on your trust and your good naturedness. That's a jump scare to me. That's an aha moment when you realize, oh shit,
Yeah.
that little kid literally is just killing people right now by manipulating them, because a little kid would be so dangerous.
Yeah.
Believe in the early stages of this thing, because who would not find a little kid harmless?
Right.
Deep on my backstory, I will someday, but that's a strategy where you can manipulate someone by becoming order level manipulation. It's the Ted Bundy kind of thing. Evil. Which one's the worst one? And so it is subjective, to your point, John. It is not like it's gray. The whole thing is gray. There's no black, there's no white. The whole fucking thing is gray. And that's what it's supposed to be, is like getting you to the visceral level of there's so many different categories of this thing. I don't know what you want to call it. This the downside of society, I guess you could call it, the downside of being on a team. Because you know what? If you're by yourself, you don't have someone falling behind, and you don't have someone complaining. You don't have, all right, all the negatives. You can just wipe those. So you can't be oblivious to the fact that there are negatives to having a big ass team if you're a very strong individual. So to the motivation, meaning you don't understand. I'm not saying you specifically, but us, if you're not aware of where this motivation comes from, meaning it's a subconsciously derived game theory strategy, you will not be able to program yourself Pavlovianly to get If you truly desire it, if you really have a narration of morality and ethics, and you truly believe on that, and you're not just lying to yourself, you're a good person at heart, this is the way it comes through. Moment of truth. If you've ever been there, you know what I mean. Making that hard choice and feeling the way you feel and making a choice on what's going to happen next. And the decision is made and you're just writing the story. But it feels like that's your moment. And the accumulation of all of your society's, norms and culture and everything you've imbibed up to that point, all your Pavlovian, of everything you've ever learned, digest down to left or right. The tree is in front of us, left or right. That's it, man. In a fucking heartbeat, that's what it comes down to.
Right.
And when you realize that and can use it as a lever and not be fearful of it or oblivious to it, yeah, I hope so. I don't think so. I hope so. I don't know so. Well, to your point, I think the game continues to evolve. The only thing that doesn't change is things change. I mean, forever and ever. I think that's a really strong point. And to bet on it not ever changing is a losing hand every time.
Yeah. Do you think, I don't think we've talked about this specifically, but do you foresee any conversations between characters maybe not even in like the first sort of season of this, this particular family barbecue event, but maybe like in a future, scenario? But do you foresee conversations with people talking about this kind of subconscious conscious? Like, is there going to be a sort of maybe Gandalf type character who's very wise and, understands all of these things and kind of shares that with a character? Have you thought about that? Like, I don't know if that is too on the nose.
No, I don't think I've really contemplated that consideration, but I'll tell you my gut tells me make it as realistic and plausible under the precepts of this is an alien spore attack.
Yeah.
But here's my point, John. Here's my point. To get the jump scare, I don't want it to be abstract. You're not going to get abstract to get a jump scare. Abstraction layers allow for beauty and complexity and nuance and stuff like that, but it's not going to get you where you live. Okay, you want to get them where they live. You want to really say, you're putting yourself in the character's position empathetically for this moment. You lose the boundaries of your body like a float tank. You know what a float tank, an isolation tank is?
Well, I've heard of isolation tank. Is it the same thing as a float tank then? I guess I haven't heard that term specifically.
Is just what happens because there's so much salt in the water. You essentially float like a cork on the surface of this water. But you're in a tank and the water is skin temperature and the tank is completely dark and you put earplugs in so you can't hear. And so all your senses are stripped away. I mean, all the input of your senses are stripped away. And you have this moment of sensory deprivation where your simulation, your model, that is the consciousness you perceive, goes wild, apparently. Okay?
Yeah,
like
I've heard,
unbounded, right? It just becomes like the separation of you and the universe dissolves. Imagine that.
Yeah.
So
That's crazy.
So I want to get someone, when you're visually locked in, say you're in a dark room and maybe it's like a video game and you're playing it, right? And it's like a scary video game or something. You get immersed into the characters such that the zombie jumps and you actually, jump scare. Or you're on the couch and you're watching the show and you just get so absorbed. You kind of put yourself in the character's point of view. And that's what I'm talking about. The level of feeling. You actually feel what's happening in some kind of shared way. This is humans' ability to transfer this information one to another. This is playing on the evolution that we are social, such that we cannot even hide these cues. You couldn't even hide. You don't have a poker face. Like, you think you have a poker face? Go to Vegas, get broke.
Yeah.
You think you could hide? You can't hide. Nobody can really hide. It's so hard to do. So what I'm saying is use that against us to promote us in the only way that is meaningful, which is this awakening of what is happening. We're sitting at a table, playing a game. You think you're playing this hand, but you're really standing behind that character watching, or something like that, right?
Mm, yeah.
And until you have like, it's like the sixth sense. Like I see dead people. Until you realize, Bruce Willis style, that you are dead, out. You cannot solve this equation. It will never resolve. Nothing makes sense. Once you realize, oh, I'm the dead one,
Yeah.
right? Sorry, spoiler alert, everybody. Spoiler
Sure.
alert.
Yeah.
That's a 30-year-old movie right there. I
Yeah.
hope
No shit. Yeah.
M. Night, M. Night has a long string of other movies you can watch as well to get great. I love his storytelling. By the way, I think
Yeah.
this is
He
a
does a
really
good job.
a
Yeah.
really important way of hiding like the trump card and having this thing played at just the right moment that it gets that impact. The jump
Yeah.
scare, it doesn't have to be a scary thing. I'm just saying this moment of contextualization, like you're going to remember that moment, like how you felt when you watched The Matrix or whatever, like any big scene
Yeah.
that you can feel how it felt to watch that thing. That's what I want.
Yeah. Totally on board with that. Like you even used the word awe earlier, and last week I mentioned that word that is in Contact a few times, and it is numinous, and that's the thing. It's just something new and awe-inspiring, and I like the way it's described in Contact about like in a wholly other thing, something like just brand new and kind of. So I think that's like completely admirable,
Hey,
like
John, that's
and worthy goal.
why you said a poet. This is the
Yeah,
inducement of the poetry. You want to have the experience that is so, you struggle to make words that convey that feeling. That's the where you want to be. That's the sweet spot.
yeah, I love it. Cool. Well, so those were the themes. So the other two pieces you put out there are outline of key events, and then kind of the narrative. I do think, I mean, I definitely want to go through those. I'm kind of wondering if like maybe we save that for round three, mostly because of technical difficulties. Like I kind of every so often, unfortunately, like you kind of cut out, and I I think because I've talked to you well enough, for several months now, like I think I'm filling in the pieces like okay, but but I
Out though,
wonder if
I don't
maybe.
even know. I apologize. I didn't even
No,
know.
don't apologize, man. I think it's the app. I think it's just like an off day for technology or whatever, like either the app um or my Wi-Fi or something. But yeah, so what do you think if we kind of maybe just call
Trust your
this one a
instinct.
short?
Yeah, I trust your instinct. If we can make it through the themes and it's in the can and it is what it is, then yeah, we can do that. I think that sounds good to me.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So yes, so that was the themes and uh there's a even though it's probably like your shortest post, I think it's one of your most important ones on this whole thing because I mean we've been talking about it for an hour just on like what is the it's kind of the like what's the point, right? What why or the why, maybe that's like the most simplest way to simplest question, like why is this story being told in the first place? And so I think that was super insightful of you to think I'm just going to put all the themes in a separate post. you know um so bravo, well done on that. And then yeah, the
You'll
other
appreciate
two.
that.
Yeah. Yeah, and then so yeah, the next time we go through this, so yeah, we'll do key events, which kind of tie into the character pieces we were going through, but if I remember right, it's more detailed. I know there's a piece in, let's see, yeah, it's in the key events about the wasp knife.
The
Um,
cool thing, man. Good foreboding. That's such a badass
yeah,
piece of the story. I'm glad you appreciate
yeah, yeah.
that.
So
By the way,
so
does that
that'll.
link still work? Can you see what that actually is? Because I can't remember if that link works. There is a literal thing out there. I'm not. I didn't make it up, by the way. Did you see that?
Yeah, yeah. Again, the technical difficulties this time. So I missed what because it crashed on me, but I'm coming back in. So yes, the link does work. Wasp injection systems. Um, yeah, I kind of remember even we talked about it a bit. Um,
I can't see. Let me. Sorry. Mm, these technical difficulties are frustrating. My bad.
no, all good. But yes, yes. So we'll definitely dig into that in the next one.
Definitely, definitely. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, sweet. Yeah, I think that is such a cool piece. That was a thing that I learned. I just got to tell you this. I just got to get it out.
Sure.
That was a thing that I had seen originally, like way back in the day. Whenever this thing came out, I can't remember. And I saw this thing, and it embedded deeply in my head somehow. That when I started thinking about this Pumpkinhead thing, it just came. I don't know, it just sprang in. And you know how it
Yeah.
goes in the future, so you understand how it works. But it just came to my, it was such a weird moment of creation that I knew where it came from, meaning I remember my childhood of seeing this thing, but I had not remembered that for like 20 years or something. And it just
Wow.
like, boom, right there. I was like, oh, that is so cool. And I looked it up,
Yeah.
and it was, because I didn't remember if it was real or if I just made it up. And I looked it up,
Wow.
and that thing was literally there. And there's like a YouTube video. I don't know if you saw the YouTube video with like a watermelon and stuff, but
No, I don't think I did. Yeah.
it's a
I'll have to
demo.
like,
Yeah, I don't know if it's on that guy's page, but there's like a demo video of showing what the effects of this thing. Let's not spoil it too much, but yeah, it's pretty cool, man. It is a very, very interesting visual if we can get it there. It'd be a unique way to deal with the baddie that I
yeah,
don't think anybody's done. I can't recall in movies or TV.
yeah. And it's beautiful. It was there's a quote I don't have it handy, but it's a hunch is creativity trying to tell you something.
Hmm.
And so if nothing else, like this piece has to be in the story because it's very personal to you. Like you said, there's like 20 years between this moment where you saw it and then it coming back and then like that's the kind of stuff I think is so important to include in storytelling is those personal things. And yeah, that's it's genius, I would say, to work that in there. And then it's extra genius because it's personal. It's not just and again, like 20, like you said, 20 some years, like that makes me like very excited about the whole thing, just knowing that it's got like a history sort of, to it. So
I love it. I love it. Yeah, I think we can crack that nut. We got a lot more material of actual specifics. So today, a lot of generalities and
yeah,
concepts. A lot more specific plot points and plot devices and how tos, like the mechanics behind what is actually happening. I think that's kind of compelling on its own, but not as deep as what we're talking about today.
yeah. Right on. Yeah. Okay, cool. Well, yeah, I think we'll maybe wrap up. So for next episode, I'm hoping maybe we can do the contact one. I'm like 90 some percent done with the book, so hopefully I will be done soon. And then I definitely want to rewatch the movie and like jot down some notes. I know Tucker said he wanted to do the same thing, so
I would like to
we'll
rewatch the movie. I would like to do that as well.
yeah. By the way, I'm totally happy with postponing that episode until all of us have been able to find the time to do any of the things we want to do for it. So we'll just, stay in touch during the week. If it happens next Sunday, great. If not, I'm going to be out of town, for uh a few a couple Sundays. So then it might be into I think I'll be back the last Sunday in November, otherwise like into December, but we'll figure all that out.
I mean, I
So
assume with holidays, things are going to get disruptive as far as scheduling. So just I'm
yeah.
taking it. I'm sure you'll appreciate it when I have, interruptions as well. So it'll just be what it be.
Yeah, exactly. But cool. All right. Well, good work today. Sorry for the technical difficulties. Anybody who's listening.
Yeah, next
But
time hit me. It might be. I mean, obviously we did had to do, but maybe like I could have restarted or something. I don't know. If something happens, just I know it's disruptive to the flow, obviously, but well, it is what it is. We'll just have to work on our tech, and maybe I have to upgrade. Maybe that's a sign from reality. Bob, get
did
better equipment.
did you by chance change like from AirPods to regular headphones or speakerphone or something just in
I
the last
just
like
went to.
5 minutes?
I did. I went to speakerphone like the last
Okay.
5 minutes. I didn't realize I'd been dropping out so dramatically. And
I
so
probably should have said something. I mean, it was like I said, it seemed like for a while, like almost um every time you started talking, like the first one or two words like just weren't there. But I don't think it was that disruptive, but maybe I should have said something. So here's what I'm thinking is just for future, references. I usually when we start the room, like we chat, I think that's still good. If if it's crashing again, maybe like I'll end the room and start a new room. I probably should
yeah.
have thought about doing that. Like you said, like once we start going, like it is kind of disruptive to, and I would say impossible to start again and splice it together, like with the way the app is. Like it's all, it's kind of all in one piece. So I definitely didn't want to like restart it, like it's,
No, I trust we went too far to make any course
yeah,
corrections other than like, hey, I just got to make sure if I do have an option to ditch my AirPods because it doesn't work today for whatever reason. But whatever. I mean,
yeah,
like, I think that's the next level is just knock
yeah,
out the
the
peripherals
bugs.
and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Cool. All right. Well, yeah, we'll call it good for today then. And thanks for listening. Look forward to the contact episode. Should be an awesome one. I'm actually wondering if it'll even fit in one episode because I'm sure we have so much to say. So even
That's
that might
fair.
be a two-parter. but, but yeah, cool. All right. Well, yeah, thanks, Bob. We'll chat next time.
Thanks, John.
Cool.
Hey.
Hey.
Sorry, my kid
Yeah,
literally
yeah.
walked in the door right at the end.